Hello, friends. So happy to have you here with me today at Radical Joy. If you've been here before, welcome back. If this is your first time with me, I'm glad you're here. Each week, I'm here with you talking to myself about things that weigh on my mind and heart, hoping if you're dealing with something similar, we can adjust both our perspectives as you listen. Hey, if you're struggling with something that needs immediate attention, please know that help is available. Just dial 988 nationwide in the U.S. to reach the Mental Health and Suicide Crisis Hotline. All of us here at CLW Studios believe that mental health is a vital part of our well-being. The more people I meet and the more places I go, the more I realize how important it is to make people aware of the fact that there is no shame in enjoying the parts of your life that are incredible. It's time for some Radical Joy. And this week, the three fingers pointing back at me are for leaving room for mad. For whatever reason today, I wanted to dwell on this just a little bitty bit. If y'all are anything like me, you've got a lot of emotions inside this meat puppet that's kind of walking around saying hey to everybody, working for a living, paying bills, keeping food on the table, etc., etc., etc. Now, whenever something like that happens, which is always, we've always got a mix, a sort of stew of emotions going on in there. It's easy to let some of them sort of get out of balance. I think for the most part, I try to work on having a pretty good equilibrium. Like things in this whole world get me real upset, okay? And I can either let those things continue to ruin my day, or I can look at it, breathe through it, acknowledge the fact that it was really irritating me for about however many seconds, and then go on with the rest of it. Okay, I had a meeting this morning with a friend and I was on my way, and this man goes running through the intersection. I had the stop sign, he did not. Speed limit in there is 35 miles per hour, of which this man was excessively exceeding. Well, I'm pulling into the intersection. He comes very near to hitting me, and instead of just going on about his life, throwing the bird at me, blowing his horn, etc., he locks down his SUV in the middle of the intersection to continue yelling at me through two panes of glass, his window and mine, and making all manner of ugly faces and this, that, and the other. And at this point, I've been like, the entire exchange might have been 5 seconds, but I'm thinking to myself, now not only have I endangered your safety, now you are endangering mine and anyone and everyone else that may be trying to enter this intersection. So that's whenever I lay down on my horn, I threw my bird at this individual, and eventually he moved his little red SUV on up out of there, and we went on about our lives. Now, I am ready to chew nails to powder and spit them out in aluminum foil at this point, okay? Because I'm just absolutely livid. I am bent out of shape like none other. And I continue to think on this. We both share responsibility in the problem for this. I pulled out of the stop sign. He was flying like a bat out of purgatory. The whole thing was just not great. It's a terrible intersection. A lot of intersections are like that in Las Vegas. Not great visibility. People are driving like crazy people, including those at the stop sign. I will gladly take the responsibility for what I've got. The anger that went from 0 to 9 million in negative 0.4 seconds in my heart. I was ready to jump from my car, take the aluminum ball bat that I keep just to the left of the driver's seat because I don't necessarily want to carry a firearm. And it was just like, I was ready. I was absolutely ready because it comes to a point where it feels like an affront. Okay. It has absolutely nothing to do with anything. This person was fearing for his safety, probably got mad that he felt afraid by someone driving around a little light blue Honda Accord that was easily 10 years older than his vehicle. Whatever it was that really set this guy off, promise, I was ready to meet him where he was living. And I started kind of pondering on that. What in the world? How was that so easily accessible? It reminds me of that line in The Incredible Hulk or in the Marvel movies. She's like, well, that's the secret. I'm always angry. Is that the case? And is that okay? I want to explore that a little bit today. Is that okay? I think a lot of us have a lot of these things waiting inside us because we deal with a lot of frustration and anger and off-putting emotions. And instead of finding a way to sort of work through those and sublimate those and rid them, we don't necessarily have the coping mechanisms, or we suppress it instead of express it. And then all of a sudden we've got a problem on our hands because we hit that trigger And all of a sudden, we're ready to rip somebody's lungs out through their nose holes. What in the world? It was a near miss. I'm really happy everyone was safe. I'm glad I didn't get in an accident. My insurance company would absolutely string me up by my heels. So there are a million reasons to be grateful this wasn't any worse than it was. But the thing that I carry away from this is I absolutely was so ready to get out in my flip flops and my jaunty hat with this aluminum ball bat and show this man what we came to do on a Tuesday morning. I didn't. I didn't. And then it started dawning on me that there is something inside me other than joy that perhaps needs to be exorcised in order to leave space for the joy in my life to grow. Because there are a lot of things resting inside here that are sort of bordering on the volatile. Now, this may not be anybody else's experience. If it's yours, welcome to the rage, okay? I need to find a way to be better with this. I need to find a way to have this more healthily expressed in my own life. So whenever things like this happen, which they are going to continue to happen, that's the thing. I could either hope it never happens again in this wild, crazy utopia that I've made up in my mind, or I can face the reality of the situation and know that it is going to happen again. How can I express this anger in a much more healthy way, little by little, instead of letting it build up, perhaps unbeknownst to the conscious mind of mine, until it hits that little fuse, and now I'm ready to just bare teeth and draw blood. That is not okay, to a point. This was another little thing that kind of got me thinking. I tried to, once I kind of moved past the blind anger and the red field of vision, I started thinking about other times in my life whenever I was this upset and this angry. And it took me back to a time when I sold cars. Okay. Now, this is way back in the day. I just gotten out of school. I started work with Dad at the car dealership, at the Honda dealership in Birmingham, Alabama. And this ad executive type person comes in and he wanted to buy the Honda Prelude. And I remember selling him one, but I remember it was not easy at all. He shopped us around to every dealership in the city, if not a few others outside. He continued calling, well, this dealership offers this, and this dealership offers this. Well, what can you do to match it? What can you do to beat it? Da, 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 da. And after so many weeks of getting this man and just the deal getting leaner and leaner and thinner and thinner and thinner, we finally got pen to paper and put this person in a vehicle. Wonderful, delicious, hallelujah, it's over. Let's take that meager commission, put it in the bank, and move on to the next deal. Once this gentleman comes to pick up his vehicle, because he's not necessarily local, he's been shopping us a bit. He comes in to pick it up. He's like, oh, just one more thing. And I started to bristle immediately. He says, I want you to remove the sticker from the back that has the name of the dealership on it, because I do a lot of business with a lot of dealerships in town, and I don't want them knowing where I bought my car. And that was it. That was my breaking point. That was the spot where I just said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. No. And my father, who was the sales manager at the time, wondered what in the holy hell had gotten into me that this was the breaking point. He's like, what do you mean? I said, I'm not doing that. I said, you as the sales manager can give it to him. This gentleman, as the owner, can give it to him, because the owner was there too, because it had taken quite a while and we were all really thrilled to finally have this deal come together. And it was hilarious to me because both of my managers and like superiors in the organization, their eyebrows flew up over their forehead. It's like, this is it? I said, yes, this is the point. I work at this place. I'm proud to work at this place. I've given this person a fantastic deal, and now he doesn't want everyone to know how good a deal we gave him. This is going to someone else to decide, because if it was up to me, I'd let you walk out that door without getting this car. And now the client's starting to get a little fluffy. And the managers are coming in to save it, and they're taking me to the break room so I can kind of calm down on everything. And I still, to this day, even thinking about this some easily 20 years later, I still feel justified in saying that, in getting angry about that. And why? Because anger is not a misplaced emotion. It's not an unhealthy emotion. Poorly expressed or repressed anger can definitely hurt you. Anger is part of our spectrum for a very good reason. And to me, even now, 2 decades later, when I have so much other life experience behind me, I stand by that. And by God, I don't have any problem with it at all. Luckily, I had managers and owners who were much more reasonable than I in such a situation because they wanted to get the number on the board. I, however, being the hot-headed little mother that I probably have always been and come by very honestly, if anyone in the world has ever met my father, I was ready to let that walk. I absolutely was. I was ready. Great. Super. You have beat us to death on this price. My commission is X amount of money, and I could sell a Civic and make more money than I could this Prelude that is the top performing sport vehicle for the year of our Lord, whatever it was when I sold it. And I was absolutely ready to walk out on that. And looking back, is that the most reasonable answer? Of course not, because I'm at the job to make money. And then there's a point where you reach that breaking of reason, where you separate yourself from the reality of the situation. You're like, you know what? I will sell a Civic and make more money than this, and you will have to go somewhere else and explain to them why you're there buying their car instead of here buying my car. And it was because you didn't want everyone to know that we had sold it to you. And telling the story now, I realize, if I'm trying to look at this objectively, it's like, well, that was pretty silly. That's a few $100s that you could have kept in your pocket versus letting this person walk. Yes, correct. Absolutely. I needed to make room for the joy, but I was overwhelmed with what I still considered to be a righteous anger at the time. When I look at it reasonably, no, of course not. You make the money and you swallow your pride and you go on about your life. When I look at this as a human being dealing with another human being after all that we had been through in my mind, no, absolutely not. No. Every single item on the table that was worth value and money and this, that, and the other thing had been given, had been surrendered, had been compromised. This was the one thing that had no money, no monetary value to it whatsoever, and I was not budging. Luckily, there were people who had more authority than I that were in control of the situation and got me my commission, took the sticker off the back of that car and sent that person on his way, even though now he was ruffled because his upstart of a salesman got upset that he didn't want to take the sticker off the back of the car. It is what it is. And I tell this story because that anger needed to leave me in order to make room for the reason and the rationale. Now, it had been building over weeks of dealing with this person and their nickel and diming and this and that and the other thing, and then it came to a head and I expressed it. Honestly, I think it was respectful. I do. I didn't yell at the person. I did not keep it quiet. I was very direct in my conversation. I did not use an expletive. I did not use any profanity, which quite frankly, at this point in my life is not a huge stretch. I was still much better with my vocab than I am now. And I still feel good about it. And I think back on that day, and I think that may have been one of the angriest I've ever been at somebody that wasn't related to me or someone that, had the capability of hurting me on an emotional level. I was like, okay, great. What does that mean? That means that we got to make room for a very intense emotion by evacuating the vessel of other intense emotions that do not serve our final goals. A job's final goal is to make you some money. There are parallel goals as far as keeping your sanity, keeping your self-respect and dignity. Yes, sometimes you do have to compromise on those and give a little wiggle on it just to make sure that you continue to put food on the table for yourself and those you hold most dear. Understood. And there's also a time where you got to be like, nope, this is my line. This is it. And you got to make peace with it. You got to figure out where that is. The older I get, the more I realize that a lot of us have been taught and continue to get taught that you shouldn't get angry. There are certain things in your life that you are very upset about this, and that is too unhealthy for you. I'm here to flip that just a little bit, if I may. I think that trying to sit on emotions like that are so incredibly well justified or so deeply held or felt, you don't need to sit on it. You don't need to feel ashamed of it. You don't need to hide it. What you need to do, you, us, we, is find a way to healthily express that so that you don't sit on it so long and put the lid on it for so long Then it just explodes and you got no control over it. Something just hits that just right. And all of a sudden your pressure cooker explodes. And by golly, by gosh, that's the end of it. Beginning, end, all of the middle. Boom. Ooh, I didn't mean for that to happen. Right. I didn't mean to say that to someone that I love and care and respect. Right. However, this perfectly natural, perfectly reasonable, very intense emotion didn't have a way out. All it had was a way under. All it had was a way down. It hasn't left the building. It's just been compacted and squoze and heated by the fire of its own being to continue to expand in a smaller and smaller area. And if you know anything at all about physics, you know that ain't going to keep for very long. Eventually, that is going to need an out, preferably in a way that you've chosen, preferably in a direction you have aimed, so that it can go somewhere that is either incredibly constructive, it is very relief providing, and nobody gets hurt in the process, including people that you like or people that you don't. Because there's part of me that's also like, hey, you know what? It's also not awful to have an enemy. Some folks in your life, you're never going to be able to avoid it. It's just that way. They don't like your look. They don't like your outlook. They don't like your attitude. They don't like the car you drive. They don't like the things that you've accomplished. They don't like how tall you are, how short you are, how big of muscles you got, how smart you are. I would love to think that most people are going to experience a pretty severe case of envy about someone they love in their life or someone they just know, someone that is an acquaintance, and they're going to need to find a way to let that out. I'm talking to me right now. Goodness gracious. Boy, do I deal with envy on a regular basis, which is hilarious because whenever I write down the things that I need to be thankful for and do honestly feel a very deep and sincere sense of gratitude for having, it is hilarious to me that I am looking to others to find a reason to be jealous. Good God Almighty, do I not have a laundry list of blessings that I can look at, focus on, and continue to just cock of the walk it? Just strut around because all of these things I asked for have been delivered and delivered in abundance. And still, there is a very human, frail, fragile part of me that continues to look on the outside at what others have, and I continue to ask for more. And the craziest part about it is I continue to ask for these things that are probably never going to happen. I have amazing friends in my life that are over 6 feet tall. And yes, even at nearly the ripe old age of mine, I still feel envy at that occasionally. I'm like, wasted energy. And you just get these kind of things build up and like I know in my thinking brain, not in my lizard reaction brain, but in my actual sitting down with a cup of coffee and a really nice pen and a piece of paper can write this out and know that this is not something that should occupy my time or energy or brain space. And yet, and I hate talking about these kind of things. I do. I really don't like it at all. It makes me feel incredibly fragile. It makes me feel silly that these kind of things even occupy anything in my brain anymore. And they don't. Like, this isn't something that I dwell on, but, occasionally I'm on the stage and I've got these beautiful, talented, wonderful human beings whom I love singing next to me. And I see the pictures after the show and I'm the shortest one on stage. That gummit razza-frazza. And it's one of those things where I need to continue to face the reality of the situation. It's like, and what's your flipping point, Bullard? Like, why do you let these things get up under your skin? And I need to continue to look at the things in my life that make me angry exactly the same way. Some of these things I have no control over the anger. What I can do is look at it objectively. And I can look at that as like, okay. I feel an immense amount of anger and frustration and just pissed offness at this right now. Is this something that needs to consume me? Is this something that I need to work through? Or is this something that I need to just observe the silliness of it, understand that it was in that exact moment, and just move on with my life? Great. Which is it? I think that's a question we can continue to ask ourselves. Is this something that really needs to occupy something in my heart and mind and day to day? Is this something that I can acknowledge as something absolutely silly and ridiculous? And why in the world am I even wasting time thinking on this? Is this something that's really something that upsets me? And how do I need to express that? How do I need to work through this in a healthy way so that I never have to worry about exploding on people who don't deserve it? Where I don't ever have to worry about misplacing this aggression on someone who's never been anything but wonderful and kind to me, because it can. What little I know about human psychology knows is that often the people who love us the most, the people who have the least chance of walking away from us whenever we treat them so poorly in a way they do not deserve, are the ones that are still going to stick around. Ouch. Right? Ouch. So, in order to avoid doing that to someone that I love and admire and trust and respect and want to be around for many, many years to come, what do I need to work on in my own interior to make sure that isn't something that accidentally slips out one day? That doesn't just rage and torch from my very acidic tongue when I need it to be. I got a sharp wit and a tongue with the blade on the other side that is just as sharp. Don't mess with me and you won't get hurt. Not a threat. That's just like a realization of part of the skill set that comes along with being who I am and being my friend. On the other side of that coin, and there is at least one other side of that coin, I know this about me, which means that whenever I get angry or disappointed or frustrated or hurt or any of these things that tend to well up inside me and need to find a way out in a healthy avenue, I need to address that before someone I love picks on me, because that is their love language and the method in which they show affection. And I do something that I perhaps cannot take back. Before I say something I can't repair. Before I do something that will never find me in the same circle of trust than before I did it. It's so important. I got to get rid of that. I got to find a way for it to get out. Okay. I got to burp that bag. I'm putting something in a Ziploc, and I know that I gotta, in order to keep it fresh, in order to make sure that nothing happens to whatever it is that I'm trying to preserve, I gotta get rid of the stuff in there that could hurt it. And I got to do it the right way. Like if you close that bag and you try to squeeze it once the zipper's locked, you're in a world of hurt. You're probably going to blow out the other end of the bag long before it's going to open by force at the zipper. And then all the stuff on the inside is it's going to fall on the floor. It's going to get wasted. It's going to go down the grate of an air vent somewhere in the house. It's going to do any number of things except be protected and preserved and saved for later, where you can enjoy it, not just with yourself, but with others. And I got to remember that. I've got to keep that in mind. I got to continue working on removing the thing from the space that can take up the room where joy can grow and abide. It's something that's got to be thought of all the time. It's something that I've got to dwell on a little bit almost every single day. Because people drive stupid and people do really silly things. They don't think about things. Or the things that they're thinking about, they don't think about the repercussions on how it affects others all the time. Okay. Like, I get now why that guy asked us to do what he did as the ad executive. I get it. I absolutely do, because you've got to maintain a certain level of neutrality, because you're dealing with all of us people and we all wanted his business and somebody won it, but there's no reason rubbing everybody else's nose in it by saying, ha ha ha, this Honda dealership won it. Okay. Doesn't keep me from getting mad, because we gave the guy a great deal and I was very proud to work where I worked. It was amazing. I loved it. I had a lot of fun with folks. I worked a lot. I made a lot of money. I paid off my school loans. That job taught me a lot moving forward about what I wanted to do with my life and maybe what I didn't. And when somebody came in there and for whatever reason, their request seemed like a slight, not just on me, because I can deal with that a lot of times, or I can fix it. It dealt with the organization to which I belonged. And I got mad. And I felt like it was justified. And even now, part of me is still like, yep. And I would have let him walk if that happened Day. Silly. Silly. I reserve the right to be silly. I reserve the right to be foolish and errant and all of these other beautiful terms that the English language can give us for not really paying attention to why you're there and taking a stand for something that is important to you. And I will also say that it's best if you have people in your corner, like those managers or owners that I talked about earlier. They can also point it out whenever you're being just a little bit more, and you can give them the ball to run whenever you're like, nope, this is the line I will no longer cross. Delicious. Pass. Pass it off. Give it to somebody else in your life who you trust, who you know has your best interest in hearts. Let them run. Because by God, sometimes you just cannot get past the 35 and you still got another 34 and some inches to go. Great. Take it. Run. Bye. This is as far as I can go, and I ain't going no further. Okay. Is it silly? Yeah. Is it unreasonable? Yes. I think a lot of the emotions that we hold inside us are a little bit unreasonable. That's why we have reason, we have emotion. Not that they necessarily have to be on opposite ends of the spectrum. They are not close to one another all the time. That's why we have a head and we have a heart, and why we often think that sometimes you have to work to get those two body parts to work together, why you have to get those two ideas hand in hand and running parallel. Sometimes they run in opposite directions. Sometimes they're skewed. Sometimes one is on the X and the other's on the Z. Maybe they don't, maybe they're not even in the same zip code sometimes. I don't know. That's why it is an effort. And that is why sometimes whenever you have to pass it off. And that's where our friends come in. That's where our loved ones enter into the situation. That's where people who are smarter, more experienced, better versed at some of these things than us step in to help us. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's not a weakness. Honestly, it's a strength. Whenever you look at something like that and know that you can't go any farther, help me, please. I want to pass this off to someone who is stronger than I in situations such as this, because I have had my fill of this and I can take no more. Help. And sometimes we got to take a little ribbing. Sometimes we got to take a little bit, because I'll never forget the hassle that I got from both the owner and my sales manager after this. Like, holy, you just locked it down. I said, yes, I did. He's like, and on that, no less. And I said, and I stand by it. I'm proud of the work that we did for that. I'm proud of the deal that we gave them. And that was just my line. They pulled and they pushed, they cajoled and they pinched, and I was just done. I had nothing left to give. And luckily I had people in my life that saw that, smiled, giggled a little at the fact that that was the part, because there is something noble in saying that I am proud of this. I'm proud of what we've done, and I have given you all I'm going to give. And someone else is going to have to give you more if this is going to continue, but it ain't gonna be me. And I'm proud of that. There's a line in the sand, and by God, I locked down on the right side of it. And sometimes we have to do that. And there's a part of me that knows that it's silly, but I'm still so proud of it. It makes me so happy to know that there was a line that I didn't give and give and give and give and give and give and give. We've talked about that so often here. There's only so much you can give. You have to keep some for yourself. You must feed your own. You must know when you have reached your fill line for some of this, because it can go either way. Like, you can give and give and give yourself until there is nothing left to give. And you can take and take and take and take until you fear that you have lost yourself in the depth of this that you did not want but were forced to take. And sometimes it's hard to see yourself whenever the sheer volume of something you don't love is drowning you. And that is when we either feed our souls with what makes us better and stronger and more full, or we take a moment to empty that rage, that disappointment, that frustration, so that we have room for other things in there, so that we continue to help those around us that we love, that have asked things of us that deserve our help, and have given enough of their pride and set it aside so that they've come to us and ask for help. Make room. but never, never, never feel bad for expressing what is naturally a part of your emotional spectrum. Mm. Man, I love these times we get to spend together make the whole difference to the world in me, because I tell you what, I've been dwelling on that guy in traffic all morning. Now, granted, it wasn't too long, because after my meeting, I came straight home. I took off my meeting clothes, put on my gym shorts, and just sat down here in front of the microphone to just dump it. It's like, I need to tell my friends about this. Y'all need to hear about it, because this has to be helpful for somebody, because I know we all deal with this kind of stuff. God, man, jeez, right? And it fills us, because it takes up so much of my bandwidth. It covers so much of the range that I can see. It's not just what I can see with my eyeballs, it's what I can experience with my heart. Like, I'm just full of all of these other things. I'm like, I got to get this out. I got to let this down. I can't carry this burden around with me today. I got to just get rid of it. And this is where I go. If this is your first episode, welcome. Gosh, we're so happy to have you here. If it is your first episode, please understand they're not all like this. I hope that there are things we can discuss that we can all find some common ground on. And I don't think that anger is one of those things that we want to start our journey together with doing, but maybe it is. I don't know where your needs are, friends. So if you've gotten something out of this today, wonderful. I know I have. It helped me a lot. If this is not your first episode, welcome back. We are so happy to have you here. It means the world that you've heard other episodes and have returned to spend a little time with us, figuring out how we can all find our joy and hold on to it and nurture it and cultivate it together. If you are the reviewing type, please go to whatever platform where you're listening and leave us a 5-star review. Take a screenshot of that. Send it to us, because nothing would please me more than sending you some swag from Radical Joy. More than likely, it's going to be a sticker, something you can put on a water bottle, a journal, which we always encourage, maybe a laptop, even a car, wherever it is you like to stick a sticker. We would love to send you one of ours, just so you can have a little piece of Radical Joy to carry around with you through your days. As always, friends, we're so happy and grateful that you've taken the time to join us for this little bit of Radical Joy. And as always, please never, ever forget, we love y'all. The bottom line is, use your words, friends. Thank you for joining us again in this moment of radical joy. If this is your first time, we're so happy you're here. Take a moment to check out our archive. See if there's something else that fires you up, rekindles the joy in you. And hey, spread the word if you enjoyed it. We welcome reviews and messages. Let me know what you want to talk about. I rarely run out of things to say. So if there's something on your mind or heart, I want to hear from you. Don't forget, there is no shame in joy. I am not a therapist or a medical professional. If you're experiencing a mental health emergency, please call 911. This content and other content produced by CLW Studios and affiliated partners is not therapy, and nothing in this content indicates a therapeutic relationship. Any opinions of guests on this podcast are their own and do not represent the opinions of James or CLW Studios. Please consult with your therapist or seek one in your area if you're experiencing mental health symptoms. Anything in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Learn more about James and CLW Studios. Follow the link in the show notes. Don't forget to leave a review, and hey, we'll send you a sticker. Just send a screenshot and let us know where you want it sent. Have a great week. Love y'all.